Okay, so I'm gonna start and let people join people. That's gonna be it. This is gonna be, is it everyone okay with this being recorded so it can be put on the website? Great. We're gonna be doing an agree disagree style with about 10 questions. If you agree, you unmute yourself and we're gonna have 2 minutes to speak, 2 to 3 minutes to speak. Then those who disagree are gonna unmute themselves, talk for 2 to 3 minutes, and then we're all gonna come together and discuss. But first, introductions. So my name is Valerie. I am the founder of the College Voter and a nursing student at Emory University.
I'm Jess. I am one of the co-founders of the Polar Opposite Project, which is mostly directed towards high schoolers, and I'm a junior in high school from Pittsburgh.
Hi, I'm Angelica, and I'm a senior at Emory University, where I study sociology and religion.
Okay, you can go ahead.
All right. My name is Emilio. I'm a senior at Emory studying business and political science.
Hi, my name is Catherine. I'm a junior at Santa Clara University, majoring in psychology.
Hi, I'm Jess. I'm a nursing student at Emory. I'm a junior. I just transferred here from California, so yeah.
Hi, my name is Rubina. You can call me OB. I'm a junior at Emory University, and I'm a neuroscience and physics major.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aiden. I'm a political science major at American University. I'm also the president of Voice of Young America.
That's listening in, that's just fine. So I'm gonna start with the first question. Again, those who agree are gonna unmute themselves first. Those who disagree are gonna mute themselves, and then we're gonna switch places. So the first prompt is, higher education is the best use of my financial capabilities. For clarification, higher education is worth it.
I mean, if it's just jump in, then I'll just go. I think I agree that higher education is worth it. I don't know if the price tag is appropriate, but I definitely agree that it's worth it if that's what you want to pursue. You know, there's nothing against, trade schools or any other vocational career. Like, if you know what you want to do, go for it. And if higher education is what you want to do, it's definitely worth doing.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in like the same boat for agree. I think it's a little pricey, and like there's a whole bunch of studies saying that college prices are going way up higher than they should. But I also think like it's like higher education probably isn't like for everyone, because like I feel like there's so many kids in high school that you meet that are like, yeah, I just hate school, and they want to just go work and they want to do something like that. And I feel like that's also fun. That's also great.
Yeah, I'd have to agree too. I think the price of college is definitely very expensive, but I think it's worth it in terms of an academic experience, but also there's a whole nother education. There's a social education that goes along with college. So that's why I'm in the agree boat.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone's saying. I think it kind of just depends on the person, like, and what they want to do. Like, if they want to go off and work, that's totally fine. Like, I get that. But I think if you want like that higher education experience, then it's worth like the money and the time. And I think it's a good investment for your future and to get like a solid career that will sustain you like for life and financially.
So maybe this is a hot take, but I actually disagree with it depending on what it is, because you can go to trade school and get such a valuable career out of it. I don't think that trade school is necessarily for everyone. I don't think higher education is necessarily for everyone, but the stigmatization of not pursuing higher education is hurtful, I think, to the public. So why am I paying $72,000 to get a nursing degree that I can get at UConn for $10,000? I couldn't tell you. I like the prestige, I like the rigor of the institution, but it's definitely everyone's personal priorities that goes into it.
And also, like, some people just college, like higher education isn't like the right choice. Like, you can be in like outside of vocational school, you can be an amazing like musician or artist or like so many other things like without having that like higher education. Not that it like won't help you, but like if you have like a passion that you can pursue outside of higher education, like I think it's totally valid to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's undeniable that getting a higher education leads to more income over the course of your life. But I would say that with the prices the way they are right now, it's probably more of a negative, because you're going to go, depending on the school and if you have a scholarship, thousands of dollars, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt. And it's also with the fact that a bachelor's degree isn't enough for a lot of jobs anymore. So you're going to spend thousands of dollars to get a bachelor's, then you're going to have to get a master's. That's even more money. And although you may get a larger income from your job or a better job, you're still going to spend decades of your life paying all of it off. And again, it depends on the field. You know, specialty fields like engineering, a lot of STEM degrees, it's basically a necessity for things that are more abstract, political science, psychology, sociology, history. Those things, a lot of the people that go into those end up having to get masters and doctorates, and then they end up taking teaching positions. And to me, it seems like it's just a self-reinforcing cycle, because you have to get more education in order to get paid more, but then you also go into more debt.
Did you guys have this growing up where people would tell you that, like, oh, like this is what really matters, like high school is what really matters, like you have to do well in high school or you're not going to be successful? But then you go to college and they say, well, high school never mattered, like college matters. But college also doesn't matter because you need a master's in the future. So like it's this suspended of you always have to care, but also realize that you have to do more in the future. So if you were like a straight B student at Emory who needs to get a master's, you can go to any school pretty much if you leverage it, because a master's matters more than a bachelor's, and or vice versa. Like, it's so complicated.
I would say I didn't necessarily have that. It was always like you have to like go get a master's. Like I was told like from a very young age, like, oh, you're gonna be a lawyer, my sister's gonna be the doctor. Like it was more so like that like upper level of education was like always the end goal and like the most important goal, not so much like, and so like obviously you had to prioritize like all the leading up steps, but it was like that is always the most important thing, was like that like higher education of like graduate degree leading to a job.
Jess, D, what do you think about this? Because you're in high school right now.
I mean, I don't know. I think this whole call is going to be, you know, beneficial to me, and then later whoever views it afterwards, because, you know, like I always thought, you know, go to college, like that's what you're going to do. But like, you know, there's so many more options out there that like, you know, it might fit different needs and like fit different jobs that you want to have in the future. So I just think it's interesting how many things you can do, I guess.
I don't think anyone here has taken a gap year, but I know friends of mine who have taken gap years and loved it because they didn't go to college straight away. And they had a time to figure, however cliche this may sound, they had a year to figure themselves out and like really discover their own passions. So Jess, do you want to pop the next question? Get it? Pop.
Yeah. Okay, so agree or disagree, having a college degree opens up my job opportunities.
Again, those who agree, keep themselves unmuted. Those who disagree, mute themselves, and then we'll switch. Oh, so we all agree. Do you think that it depends based on where you go to college?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Networking is everything.
Yeah, I think I think there's like two important parts of college. One is the stuff that you actually like learn. It's like the stuff that you learn like about like how to live your life, about whatever subject you're studying. But like an equally important thing is also signaling. So like if we're gonna, I think the whole like price tag thing is really annoying. But if I'm gonna be real, like I'm glad I have the signaling of like Emory along with like whatever STEM degree like I finish with, simply because it is Emory. And it's dumb for like me to be like this is important, but like it's an unfortunate situation since like society values like, oh, you went to XYZ school or you went to Harvard or you went to Yale. You could be the exact same person like coming out of high school going into Harvard and then think the exact same way. You learned nothing, but like your job opportunities and like the amount of money you make skyrockets. So it's I feel like it's a really unfortunate reality, but I feel like it's pretty undeniable.
For business majors, does it matter?
Yeah, I going to what Obi said, I think when it comes to it, you're applying for jobs in a variety of companies, and they will take a look at your resume really quickly, at your cover letter really quickly. So your school gives you points if it's a good enough school. And if they went to that school, well, then you're pretty golden. Like, I think that a lot of it, besides being, okay, you went to a prestigious university, which people can recognize, I think it's who else went to that university as well, because that network really opens up a lot of doors for you, because those are people that will advocate for you, because they'll say, I went to Emory, I know the education is quality, I can trust this person to do a good job. So you have a better opportunity to get the job than someone who went to a different university than the person hiring.
And Aiden, you go to GW, and that is like the center, George Washington, yes? I'm right?
I go to American, but it's the same area.
Sorry, that's rivalry right there. But so you attend American, and that's a huge politics hub. American University has one of the best international relations programs in the country. So do you see that attending American gives some benefit, some leverage?
I would say a blanket yes. The school, it's easily recognized, especially in the DC area, because a lot of people who study politics go to American or George Washington. The downside is, though, when you're applying to jobs in the DC area, everyone goes to those schools and everyone is studying the same thing. So in that geographic area, I would say it's not as much of a boost as it could be. If I had just graduated and I was applying to some international company for some public relations or government job, I would say it would probably help me more there. But if I was going to apply to a congressional office and they're taking 30 other applicants who went to Georgetown, American, George Washington, that's when it becomes more important to leverage your personal connections. I know American has a program with, I don't know if it's a separate company, but it's called Alumni Fire. And basically it sets you up with other alumni. It shows you where they work. You can ask them for advice and talk to them and get mentors. But overall, I would say it's a definite plus that I'm going to American and that I'm applying for these political jobs because of how recognizable it is. But there's also so much competition from people in the same school that you have to go the extra mile.
And then Jess, because you transferred, Jess and Catherine both transferred schools. What do you, based on the school that you attended in the past versus the school you attend now, do you see any differences in connections and opportunities opened for you?
Yeah, at least for me, like I went to a state school, yeah, in California. And the opportunities that Emory has is just so much more vast. And like, I really think that once I graduate, like getting a job will be like super easy because Emory has that like prestige and reputation that like my state school did not have. And like, it will never have like as good as networking, I think. So for me, it's like a really, even though it's the same degree, technically it's like a BSN bachelor's. I think that graduating from Emory like really gives me like a leg up for sure. Yeah.
And then for me, I think, so I went to TCU before I went to Santa Clara, and I'm actually transferring this year. And so that I think TCU is still growing. So the alum network isn't as big as Santa Clara, but I have yet to see like kind of how the alum network at Santa Clara is, but I know for TCU it's still growing. So I think the alum network is really what you're paying for in a school, to be honest.
And the next question, I'm going to skip down a few because I'm interested in this answer. But my life at university balances social life, sleeping, and studying. I'm going to mute myself for this.
Yeah, I actually would say yes. I think it definitely is an adjustment, and you have to like know what works for you. And like, I think it's really important to have like good social interaction to balance out your like hardcore studying. I'm not saying sit in the library till 3 a.m. like talking instead of working on an essay. Like, not at all. Like, you can ask like my friends who are here. Like, I will never study with other people. Like, I only ever do work by myself. Because like I'm someone who wants to get my work done in like 2 or 3 hours, be done, and then have social interaction. And so like knowing what works for you is like obviously very important, and getting sleep is very important. So like I know I do my best work in the morning, so I actually wake up pretty early to like do that. But that means I have to go to sleep like earlier than most people.
My school pours a lot of resources into student health. We spend the first year in a special program that basically helps coach people with finances and managing their time. So from a school level, I would say American puts high priority on making sure all the students are balanced. In terms of student life, most of the social stuff seems to be going on in nearby universities. So a lot of American students will kind of cross the boundary a little bit. Other than that, there's a lot of political clubs and political events, and that seems to be the big social driver on a campus.
It's interesting that you mentioned the political clubs because I think that like 2-3 people here are include 4 people, including myself, are a part of Model UN, which is very political. And I know that the other people here are also quite political. So it's interesting that it's a driver of events. But for me, my university, I love Emory, don't get me wrong, okay? But it is overwhelming at high times. Like balancing between, I looked at Canvas today and I have 5 quizzes that are due next week. Like what? It is the second day of school and this is what I have. So
Yeah, I agree with I can't balance my life like well. I'm always I'm always one activity away from way overloading and doing way too much and just not having any free time. But I think that for me in college, what has suffered the most out of the 3 is definitely sleep. But I don't think that's that different from high school, where I also didn't sleep enough because I was being dumb. But like now I have less time, and that's why I end up with a lot less sleep. But I think that when it comes to being able to balance your studying and your social life, I think that's the easier ones because I spend a lot of time on campus. usually. So I see people and I get my fill of talking to people throughout the day while getting my work done, as opposed to Angelica. I prefer to work with people. I like to have a little bit of distraction every once in a while, but I definitely don't balance my life well.
Yeah, I definitely prioritize sleep over studying. If I'm really tired and I know I have a test coming up the next day and I'm not prepared for it, I'm just going to go to sleep early. I'll wing the test if I have to. I've never been super worried about grades. As long as I pass, I don't really care. I know a lot of employers look at GPA when you graduate. Instead, I hope to have the work experience to kind of set that off, if you know what I mean. I definitely will give up studying and take a worse grade if it means I'm not going to wake up hating myself.
It's
Just don't ever go to sleep.
just don't ever, that's it. You just go to sleep. It's like the 3 circles and you can only choose 2. Jess, did you hear about that in high school? Like, what is your perception about what college students' schedules are like?
Well,
There's-
oh wait,
Both of you are named Jess.
Forgot. Forgot there's 2 Jesses.
well, my sister is a sophomore at Northwestern, and you know she's a theater major, so like you know she has like all different like clubs and like stuff like that, and just like hearing her talk about scheduling classes, it just seems so stressful because she's like, I can't fit this one class in, but I really need to take it, and it's just like it's crazy.
It's a free-for-all if you're in the college.
Also, like a tip I can give is like try and get your naps in like whenever you can. Like I will have like a random like hour and a half break between a class, and like if I'm on campus, like instead of like going back home as I live off campus, like it doesn't make sense for me to just go home and then come back. So I'll like find like a quiet, comfortable place and like nap for like an hour and then go to class.
Also, for Geisha and Angelique, just hop in. The way that we're doing this is the prompt is said, people who agree talk for a bit, people who disagree then talk for a bit. And the prompt for this one was that your life at university or at high school balances social life, sleeping, and studying.
Okay. I just wanted to hop in to like agree with what Angelica said regarding naps. I feel as if like I'm just the type of person that doesn't like operate too well on caffeine. So like if you find a way to just kind of finesse your time and like take advantage of those mini breaks, like just have like a nap, have like a snack, I feel as if like you would probably be in a better situation where like if you have a sleep deficit, you can kind of offset it with taking a nap and you won't feel kind of like the crash of caffeine. So that was probably one of the best things I learned about in college.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I don't take naps longer than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that if you sleep for longer than 30 minutes, you go into that whole cycle and you end up waking up more tired. So keep it short.
There's no in between for me. I either sleep for 10 minutes or I'm knocked out for 3 hours.
That's
it.
the danger with naps for me. Like I'll take a afternoon nap thinking, I just need a quick like 10, 15 minutes to refresh myself. And then it's 6 p.m.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn.
And then you missed all of your assignments and you're like, well, okay.
Exactly. I'm not going to go to sleep until like 4 a.m. because I've already slept half the day away. Yeah, real mess. I would say though, the most important thing I always fit into my schedule is lunchtime. Sometimes you have quick turnaround from class to class, but I always need time to eat, and I think it is one of the few things that gets me through like long days at school. So I would say if you can, always schedule some lunchtime. A quality half hour to take a break in the middle of the day and eat something is be nice.
Yeah.
Also, don't be afraid to exercise, even if it's just a little bit, like going for a walk for 10 to 15 minutes. I try to go to the gym 4 to 6 days a week because that helps me pay attention. Whenever I eat food and then I go to a class, I end up passing out. So I try to work out before I go to a class. But as long as you're doing something then you'll get a little extra boost in energy.
This is a little fun question that we didn't plan on asking, but has anyone ever slept in class? Just
All
raise-
the time.
Oh, all the time. All the time. Yeah.
I know I used to go to the hallway outside of Whitehall, which is our most disgusting building, during my Israeli Palestinian class, and I would take a nap on the couch for 5 minutes, and then I would come back into classroom.
Yeah, I just fall asleep in class.
Yeah, I just slam my head down on the desk and I'm gone.
I feel like I can't.
I don't sleep in class. I actually don't. But one day, I don't know how. I was just so tired that I slept and I didn't know it. I didn't know until I woke up that I actually slept. And then my friend said because I was like fine. It was a math class because I was like doing fine. My teacher was like let her sleep fine. So my teacher was chill with it.
Okay, that was just a little fun question. But now that you mentioned science, the segues perfectly. A STEM degree is more useful than a business degree or a humanities degree.
It depends on how you use the degree actually. Just having the degree won't do anything. Your performance is what matters and how interested you are.
That is a very valid point that I was not anticipating to be said. But wait, can you explain more though?
I guess every degree has its own usefulness, and like how you use it is what matters more than actually having the degree. Because a STEM degree, yeah, it may pay more, but what job do you take in that STEM degree of that field? What do you take in it, and how do you use it, and how well do you do it, and what is your interest levels? All those count in how that degree pays back. I think that's something a lot of people overlook and just go in, oh, this job pays me the highest, let's go for it.
I do have a question though. How much does a STEM degree, or when you're applying to a STEM job and you need the STEM degree for it, how much does experience play a role? Because I know with political science, applying to all of these offices or companies, they value any kind of political experience very highly, probably even more than the degree itself. But if you just need a STEM degree and then maybe not a whole lot of experience, but a couple internships here or there, it may be more worth it in terms of time to get a STEM degree than political science or humanities, because humanities may require more hands-on experience for that entry-level job. I don't know the answer to that, but I think it would be something to consider.
Well, I think like every degree has its own positive or negative. And I think like even though, STEM degrees, obviously like once you graduate with a STEM degree, then maybe you get paid more at the beginning. But I think like humanities degrees, like a lot of them, they teach you how to think in a different way. And so I think I could argue that could be more valuable in a way, because if you know how to think in a certain direction or a certain like viewpoint, then that could be valuable to an employer. But also, like you said, experience is really, really necessary.
I think it is very subjective. I think you have, at the end of the question, you have to add to you which degree is more valuable to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Angelica, what do you think? Because I know you're humanities.
So I really agree with Gisha in that it depends on what you do with it. And people would say my degrees are kind of useless. That is what people say. I study sociology and religion. But honestly, those degrees have given me such vast understandings of people and the world, and they are the necessary degrees for what I want to do in life. And don't let anyone scare you off of a humanities degree, that STEM and business and that kind of stuff are the only routes to go, because that's not necessarily true. And also double majoring does exist if you have a passion in something else. I know people who are biology majors and a minor in sociology, because sociology gives you understanding of people and and that stuff, and that's so important if you want to be a doctor.
I would say if if people watching this are, just starting high school or something like that, and you want to have that flexibility in college, or, learn what you're interested in while you're in high school, definitely if your school has any AP classes, I would take advantage of those, especially if you are able to get credit when you go to college. That gives you more flexibility in your schedule. If your school offers, if your school offers any kind of dual enrollment with a local community college, I would also take advantage of that. And if your school doesn't and you really want to try it, I'd be willing to bet that some teachers or maybe your principal are willing to help you get in contact with the local college and try to set something up. Because ultimately, high school is about, you don't have to have everything settled in high school. You don't need to have some vision for the future. But if you can start narrowing down the kind of fields you might or might not be interested in, when you get to college, you'll be able to focus your time a lot better.
So then I ask another question, and it's about that universities. Who here wishes they attended a different college or university? Angelica.
I will say, like, I don't know if I wish I had, but like, definitely I've thought about it, like, where would I be if I'd gone to a different university? Like, I wasn't 100% made up of what I wanted to study. And then, like, the school I was between ended up having, once I finally did decide, like, while I was in college, has, like, the best program in the country for it. So I'm like, had I gone there, like, would I have made the same choices? And also, like, the other thing is, like, it really has hit me, especially the last year, like, how, like, expensive, like, my education is, and that, like, my parents have made, like, a lot of choices, like, so we can, like be able to, like, pay for college. I'm not saying it, like, is a waste fully, but definitely I was in the mindset of, like, oh, like, going to a top school is more important than, like, the price tag, and that's just, like, not true. Like, I was delusional. And definitely keep, like, price tag, and, like, state universities can be, like, amazing schools, and if you can, like, save money and get scholarships, like, do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes I wish that I had gone to either a state school or one of the other universities I was accepted into that offered me almost full rides, and then maybe transferred in to where I am now, or, in the same area. I don't think there's anything wrong with going to a community college to save money for a few years and then transferring to a university or a private university. Honestly, it's probably the better choice financially, because a lot of the time, if there are these core requirements, you can get those core classes finished really cheaply and then transfer into an actual university you want to go to, and knock out all the required credits for your degree.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, pressure. You have to go into the top school because, reputation and things like that. A lot of people tend to overlook the experience of, like, being in a university and, being in a completely new environment. I'm a high school student, so I don't know about university, but, like, having an older brother, and watching my friends also, like, look for universities. A lot of people tend to overlook the experience, the quality of, the people there in the community. That's another very important factor.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because I had the pleasure of going to Emory's Oxford campus for the first 2 years of my college career, and it is a smaller environment with just freshmen and sophomores, and so it's a very tight-knit community. And while I've never thought to myself really that I wish I had gone somewhere other than Emory, I ended up where I ended up, and though it was not originally my first choice, I'm happy to have ended up here. I would say that the reason I'm happy I ended up at Emory is I've tried to focus a lot on the people that are here. You know, one of the things that you should do if you have the opportunity and the time is join clubs and hang out with people that you don't necessarily know all that well, or, you know, who you just have one shared interest, but you get to know a lot about people from all over the world, with very different opinions, viewpoints, you know, ways of growing up that can give you a lot of interest and a lot of vitality to going to school. Because if you're just slogging through the classes and it's just, you know, academics all the time, it's not going to be as good of an experience, especially if you're in a top institution where you're going to feel a lot of pressure all the time from your classes. You need those outlets. So I agree that the people are definitely one of the most important things to focus on.
Yeah, I actually really agree with like everything Emilio's saying. That's just because like for me, like coming to Emory, like at first was like not my first choice, but I think coming here and coming to like specifically like the city, taking advantage of like, or not taking advantage, but looking at the actual location, like Emory is in like a little suburb next to Atlanta, so it's like kind of far away, but it's also like a big city is right there. Like for me personally, it was like fantastic. And also like have like the people and the connections are like the biggest thing. Like I would never want to be like, I think some of the people I found, I would never want to be in a situation where it's like, oh, I go to a different school and I didn't meet these people because I went to like a random, I'm not even engineering, I went to like a random engineering club meeting, and now I met like a specific person and he's like one of my best friends, and I have a whole nother friend group, and like these are people that like, these are like friends for life type people, like people I would want at my wedding. And I was like, I would never want to trade that like for anything. So I feel like a big thing, like I would feel like it's dumb to be like, ah, yes, let me pay 70,000 for amazing friends, but like I don't know, if you, I mean, like, not you got to do what you got to do, but I mean,
That brings though. Sorry, Angelique, you wanted to say something.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna kind of add on to that, like, especially being someone that like moved out of state, like across the country. Like I'm from like San Francisco, moving across the country and being out of kind of like that Bay Area bubble has been really beneficial. It helps you like grow up fast, kind of figure out your priorities, and just like molds you into so many ways. And kind of like what Obi was saying, like you meet people in the weirdest of places. Like you'll meet them in like the dining hall and just like sit next to them. I mean, not right now, but like you would have. And it's just like, it's just, there are just so many opportunities for you to be able to meet people, even like as someone that's kind of closed off, like you will find your way. And I feel as if like that is just so valuable, and you don't even realize how valuable it is until you like reflect back on it a couple years later.
I grew up in a bubble with Kat, and I feel like for me, going across the country to go to university by myself in a state I only heard rumors about was one of the most you laugh. So for people watching at home, I attend Emory, which is in Atlanta, Georgia, and in Connecticut, my friends would always go, "Oh, you're gonna come back with the Southern accent? Like, oh, you're gonna say y'all now?" So all of those ideas kind of came with me to Georgia, but it opened up my world. It truly did. Going to one Model UN event, that was it. And now like they're my closest friends at university, especially after COVID too, because friend groups totally changed and life kind of turned upside down, and the way that you interact with people based on your content and based on your interests really drives what you make college.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I grew up with that. We went to the same high school. We actually met in a shaper. Well, we met like in 9th grade, but then we met in like a class in senior year, like actually. But I agree. I went to school in Texas for 2 years, and people kind of looked at me like I was crazy for doing that, especially here. There's some sort of stigma against Texas for some odd reason. I mean, Texas is great, so, but but yeah, I mean, it's you meet, even though I'm transferring from TCU, I don't regret going there. Like I don't regret meeting all the people that I did. Not hook 'em, I'm Go Frogs, but thanks. I see that in the comment section. But yeah, no, I don't regret it at all. Because I met so many good people, like I forget who said it, but people who probably will be at my wedding in the future. So it's just, you know, I think once you go through 2 years of school, you kind of figure out more of what you want. And it could be for academics, it could be near family, whatever. For me, it was kind of both. So, I mean, if you're entering college, if you're a high school student, like you don't have to decide everything when you first go in, basically.
So this will lead me to one, I think we were going to do 2 more questions, but so in high school, I was an athlete, and I want to ask this specifically to the high schoolers first, actually. I'm putting you on the spot here. So as a high school student, there's a number of students who got recruited to top institutions that maybe would not have gotten in solely based on academics. So I ask the high schoolers first, and then I'll ask the college students, do athletes receive special treatment when going through the college process?
Well, I am not an athlete, and most of my friends are not athletes. But I think this past year, like the class of 2020, there was a kid who is going to Harvard on a football scholarship, and like I don't know, I just thought that was like weird, because like I saw he was like going to Harvard, and I was like, oh, I didn't really, you know, expect him to be going to Harvard. But then it was like, oh, it's football, so like I guess kind of that, I don't know, it's just like I think it's weird how, you know, athletic scholarships work, but then again, I'm not an athlete, so I don't know.
I'm a high schooler, but I'm also an athlete. I mean, I've gone to one national event. And also, fun fact, I'm not in USA. I'm all the way in Dubai. So it's a completely different area, halfway around the world. It's 7:45 p.m. here. And one thing is, athletes don't really get special treatment because our school is heavily academic based. We are following a completely different curriculum. So if you don't get a particular percentage, you cannot go for athletics no matter how good you are and things like that. But definitely, I have this experience of teachers telling me that because I went for this one national event to India, I might get a massive amount of scholarship. And I was like, wait, what? What about my grades? I'm taking a BA psychology. Why does my athletics matter for that?
And then to the college students, do you at D3 and D2 and D1, because I don't think we have any D2 students here, but do you think that athletes receive special treatment at our schools? And if so, then at all universities?
I mean, I think there is a degree of special treatment that can exist, but I think that in most cases, it comes from, you know, you have to follow who's making the money, right? Why are students who are good athletes given what, in realistic terms, compared to the amount of money that's made through TV contracting and through merchandising and all that stuff, are very paltry sums to play for a university that's going to make millions off of what is essentially free labor. You know, I think that they do receive some special treatment, but it is more because you don't want your employees to unionize, and athletes have the power, if they would choose to, you know, especially at the D1 level, to hold their universities to account and demand certain things from them. They just haven't done so yet. But you have a situation where, yeah, your athlete may be getting some free shirts, or they may be going to a university that otherwise wouldn't have been able to attend without the athletic side. But I would say that that's also fair. You know, you may have an academic scholarship or you may have an athletic scholarship. In both cases, that's a lot of dedication. Like, I played soccer at a D3 level. I'm very aware of my limitations, but the people that I like played with, or watching people who can eventually go pro, like, their level of talent is scary, and the level of dedication that they put into fostering that talent is also really impressive. So I think that if a kid put in, you know, 40 hours a week to try and perfect their sport, they should by all means get rewarded for doing so, even if it means their academics aren't at the same level as someone who put in 40 hours a week on that side.
I actually 100% agree with Emilio. When I was probably in high school, I would have been like, no, it's so unfair and that kind of stuff. But then I'm like, wait a minute, like they put in so much time, even at a D3 level. Like these people are waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to get a workout in before class, and then they have practice like after class, and then they can't even take certain classes they want to because they have to build their schedule like around when they have like practice and stuff. And like that level of dedication is like, that is also like what college is about, like finding your passion. And like not everyone is super like book smart and stuff. Like the point of college is to meet people with different experiences and different expertise and like different passions and stuff. So like I think like people who may not have like gotten in necessarily like strictly like academic wise, like showing dedication to a sport is like what actually shows a well-rounded student, as well as being dedicated to like other things you love. Like I did speech and debate and like theater in high school. So like I was very much not an athlete, but like I would put in a lot of hours to that. And I think that showed in my like college applications.
Yeah, I think athletes are favored, especially by the schools that make a ton of money off of their athletic programs. I wrestled in high school. I was a varsity wrestler, and I obviously I wasn't good enough, and I didn't put in enough time to end up being recruited. I know a lot of people on my team who did or who could be. I also know that a lot of the people on my wrestling team in high school played a lot of other sports, and they were all very dedicated to their sports and to their classes at the same time. And our school also had a GPA requirement to participate in their athletic programs. And there were a couple instances where kids whose grades fell below a certain amount had to be let go from the team until they were able to come back up. And I think so I know my school fostered both athletic and academic dedication, in my case, from my school, I think the preference showed to these student athletes was fair. But I also think that if colleges are accepting athletes who perform academically, well below standard, and they just rely on loading these athletes up with tutors when they attend their university, I think that's wrong. It doesn't seem right to me. If you're going to recruit an athlete, you might as well recruit somebody who's dedicated in academics and in their sport, because it takes up a lot of time. It's very stressful. So why not pick the people who are willing to do the work instead of spending all this time making money off them and then having them fail their classes as a result.
I'm going to ask one last question because the hour mark is going to be up. But I remember watching a documentary about student athletes taking basket weaving. And that was how they got their easy A. But regardless of that, the last question is a round robin. And I'm going to either start or end with Darren. Yes, I am calling him out because he's a part of Matriculate, so he has a lot of information about this. But what is one piece of advice that you would give a high school student going through the college process?
I actually just came from a Matriculate meeting, and one advice that I would highly recommend is definitely definitely do your homework about the school. Because when I was doing my like college list and seeing what schools I might apply to, I literally just went on QuestBridge. I did, okay, these are the partner schools, I'm going to apply to those. Don't do what I did, because then you don't really know anything about those schools. You want to know what this campus culture is like. You want to know what the student life is like. You want to know, like, okay, sure, QuestBridge gives you like financial stuff, like good financial like aid, but other than that, like, you don't know anything else about the schools. So definitely do your research about like through YouTube about like how the students' day-to-day life is. Like there are day in the life videos I made one, shameless plug. And then like there, and then you also want to, if you can, talk to the students that do attend those schools, and they can give you insights about the schools. And when the pandemic is over, hopefully soon, you can, ideally, you want to visit the schools to see what the vibe is like. Or you could do a virtual tour because they're very accessible now, to see what the school like environment's like. And then that's also really helpful. But yeah, the general message is just do your research in the school and don't just like apply to a school just because of a name and just because like you think it sounds cool. But yeah, like each school fits each person differently, and there's various like preferences and like academic fits, personal fits, and financial fits, and just yeah, just do your research.
Are you gonna call on us, or do we just jump in?
I can call on people. I also feel like a preschool teacher if I do so. So,
I mean, I'll go now.
okay.
I'd say the most important piece of advice is the future is always changing. When I was in high school, made the mistake of planning out what I wanted to do to a very, like step 1 through whatever, like this has to happen so that this can happen, all that kind of stuff. Don't put that kind of stress on yourself. You are in the college process because you are an intelligent, capable person that is trying to get to another level of intelligence and capability. But you don't need to stress out about it as much as a lot of people do, because realistically, you're going to end up somewhere. You're going to be able to make the best of it, and you're going to have the opportunities that you're looking for. You just don't need to stress yourself out to the point where if one little thing goes wrong, you feel like your entire future is ruined. And you feel like, 1B or something is going to totally ruin your ability to go to the law school you want to go to, that kind of stuff. It's not that deep. You want to be able to take a step back, calm down, and realistically take a look at the situation. So I would say just keep in mind that anything can happen, and you should be open to those kind of changes and open to opportunities without feeling the stress of having to plan out your entire life. Because most people will tell you, we switch majors all the time. You get involved in things you didn't think you would be involved in. There's ups and downs, of course, and you just got to roll with it.
Obi or Jess?
Oh, okay. I think I'd say just like, don't worry if you don't get into your dream school right away too. Because like for me, I actually didn't get into Emory in high school. And I wanted to save money. So I just ended up going to a state school, and I wanted to stay in California. So it worked out good. But then actually with nursing, I was able to apply to a bunch of schools later, and Emory was kind of my dream school in high school. So it was really cool now to get the opportunity to go and like be here and to still attend. So I'd say like, don't sweat it. Like it's like a journey, and like you'll figure it out, because I know at my school was super competitive. So I was kind of bummed that didn't get into like a top 20 school or like a really prestigious school, because a lot of kids at my school did. So I just say like, don't worry about it too much, and don't stress about your major. You'll figure it out.
Obi, that's a good point, Jess.
I would say that it's like college is like an important decision, but I also feel that I completely agree with Darren. You have to do your research, because you're gonna like, not only are you gonna go to school and learn amazing things at whatever amazing school that you go to, but you also are gonna live in the place that you're going to be for 4 years, and that I feel like that is this like an aspect of college that people overlook, because I was deciding between 2 schools, and I would have literally died if I went to the other school because of whatever. So I think you were also, this is like one of the first times that you get to like move, and you get to pick sort of where you move. It's not like a job tells you to go to, like Alaska to do, welding or whatever. But yeah, just think about where you're actually going to be, do research on like the campus culture, and what kind of city, what kind of place you want to live in.
Angelique?
I guess like this kind of takes some of the advice that was given earlier, but just to kind of have a blanket statement, keep your options open. Like, I was very limited before I even started applying to college. I was like, I know the major I want to do. I don't want to move outside of California. And so I was like, I'm just going to apply to California schools within like an hour nearby my house so I can just be a commuter. But then once you kind of like look into your options and open up like that kind of toolkit that like, I don't know, like of options that you have, you will be able to experience things that you wouldn't have expected to experience, which is wonderful. And also just in terms of interest, keep that open too. Just like don't be afraid to try new things, but also know that like you don't have to feel obligated to do every single thing under the sun in order to be successful. Just kind of have that balance and you will be just fine.
Angelica, Aiden, or Kat?
I can go. Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay, all right. Okay, I guess I'll go. When you're applying for colleges and writing all those college essays, if you have a good relationship with any of your lit teachers, ask them to review it. A lot of the times, teachers, they've already gone through college, they learn how to write well, they probably have a master's degree. Ask your teachers to review your writing to make sure that it's good. I had the benefit of one of the modules in my lit class senior year was we had to write our college essay and then they would grade it for us. So that helped me edit and peer review it a lot. So definitely take advantage of that.
Angelica and Kat, last two.
I just like would want to say like, no matter what like people say, there is no perfect like college student like mold. Like you have to have all of these things to like get into this school. Like you would be so surprised like how like you may not have like the exact test scores like you need or whatever, or like your exact grades, but like let's say like you're an amazing artist or musician. And I've like said that before, like I've mentioned that kind of stuff, but like I think it's like you got to shoot your shot almost. And like Jess said, like, okay, it doesn't work out right away, maybe like, but then you get other opportunities. You can always transfer. Like you'd be surprised how often like people will actually transfer. Like to me, like, I didn't think that was ever a thing when I was in high school, but like it very much is. And so it's like kind of like be an individual when you apply to college. Like don't think you have to just like be stuck in a certain mold.
That's a good point. And Kat?
Okay, yeah, going off of what Angelica said, yeah, you change a lot from when you're in high school. So like what you want now is totally probably different from what you wanted in high school as a senior. And I'm not even sure I knew what I wanted as a senior in high school. So like I was a nursing, I was a nursing major. Actually, Valerie and I kind of like swapped in a weird way. But yeah, so like I didn't know. And, then I kind of just this year figured out, okay, with my psychology degree, I want to do something with marketing. But it was only very recently. So, and things could change. So like just keep an open mind. That would be my advice.
And I'll round out the last piece of advice and I'll make it quick, but don't be afraid for me, Catherine and I switched majors like 5,000 times and we were on the phone with one another, kind of like freaking out last summer because I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do in life. And I think that a part of us, we all have to give up control. We do. Like we have to give up what we plan our futures to be because you never know what the hell is going to happen. Like another COVID could hit and your entire life plan will be derailed in a nanosecond. So going with the flow, but also having a passion, like have a passion for something, but go with the flow. And with that, I want to thank all of you guys for being here. This was such a fun event. It was Pop Team's, Justice and my first event of this series. And just wanted to know that we all really appreciate you.